get to the next level, and he says he takes them from good to great. And he's going to tell us a bit about how Miliband, we can all give him a bit of Miliband love.
From good to great. Kev, thanks. We'll do that after 9:30. Is he ready to be the next Prime Minister? If so, tell me why. If not, tell me why. Ranjit's in Albury. Good morning, Ranj.
Hi, mate. You're right.
Is he ready to be the next Prime Minister?
I think he probably is, but it's in the hands of the press. It's how much everybody belittles him. For example, your last caller is going on about the unions. Now, Margaret Thatcher destroyed the unions. If it wasn't for the unions, most people, including that chap that's just been on the phone, probably have no working rights. And if you want to talk about other leaders...
Well, I think, to be fair to Wayne, the impression I got was that he's self-employed. He's got his own business.
I'm self-employed. I work for myself, and I actually employ people. But because I was a trade unionist, and I know what they actually stand for in real life, not the ones which are bent, right? I'm still a trade unionist, and I think if it wasn't, it's like having equal rights and racism and all that kind of stuff. It ain't just about going on strike. It's about fighting for workers' rights. And, the Labour Party has traditionally been, for the working class, but recently moved to the centre. Can I give you another example of a bad leader? We had a leader, well, not we, but, country of my parents' origin, Manmohan Singh. Right? He was a little man. What he said was really intelligent, but it was the way he presented it that nobody listened to him. He just looked like a little rag doll standing there. And unfortunately, when the debate was on last time before the election, you had Gordon Brown, Nick Clegg, David Cameron. Well, in my opinion, Gordon Brown was a better statesman, but he still lost.
What about charisma here? Because I think it's fair to say Ed Miliband is not the most charismatic, is he? Tony Blair had charisma. Love or hate his policies, he had charisma. I'm not convinced Gordon Brown was very charismatic either.
No, he wasn't charismatic, but he was like the headmaster in front of two. The Cameron and Clegg were like two little school boys.
Well, how important is charisma then to the public?
Charisma is very important, yeah, but you still. See, the general public don't listen to the politics of what the person's saying. They look at the image, they read the popular gutter press, and then they decide on that. And that's where the problem is. You've got to understand what the guys are saying. I think recently Cameron has gone a lot better than what he was when he first come in, and I'm not a Conservative supporter. In some of the things he's done, I think he's acted very professionally.
All right, we've got to leave it there. Thank you. Can we get some Ed Miliband fans, please? He's coming in for a torrid time. Let's get some Ed Miliband fans, some supporters, please. And come on and defend the party leader. 03453 009956. Is he ready to be the next Prime Minister? Is he ready to be the next Prime Minister? Don't forget, you can text the studio 81333. We've got an image consultant coming onto the radio, and that was in response to a number of your calls this morning. The fact that I used the word charisma, is it fair to say he's not the most charismatic? Does it really matter, charisma? I think charisma is important, I really do. I think, for example, love or hate Nigel Farage, I think he's charismatic, and I think people are drawn by people's personality. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? 03453 009956. Love or hate Tony Blair, he was charismatic without a doubt. Barack Obama has charisma and charm. 03453 009956. People like Wayne earlier on and people like Ranjit and Mo all criticising how he comes across. Charisma, is it that important, or really is it policies? Ed Miliband, ready to be the next Prime Minister? And we'll get your calls on very shortly. Here's Lucia.
The M6 northbound still looking very busy this morning between 3 for the A444 and 3A for the M6 toll. It's because of an earlier accident. All lanes have reopened, but you're still looking at nearly an hour delay along there. Southbound on the M6, queues there as well between 5 for Castlebrombe and junction 3 for the A444. The northbound M6 accident causing delays on that southbound side as well. About 45 minutes queues there. M6 southbound at Hilton Park Services. The service area is closed off the southbound side because of the Hilton Park Services electrical fault going on there. Northbound is fine though. That's all open between 11 and 10. The M54 starting to look a bit busy now eastbound. There's actually a fuel spillage. One lane's been closed off between 4 for Shifnal and 3 for Albrighton, and heading out into Birmingham, Quinton's Hagley Road West. Traffic lights out there just outside the Amber Tavern on the Wolverhampton Road South, causing delays on all approaches. The A5 Tamworth at the M42 Junction 10. The traffic lights are out there as well, causing delays. Those lights out of order just on the eastbound approach to the island. It's very slow because of an accident earlier as well. It was involving 2 cars and a stray tyre, so those lights just adding to those problems. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel on 08453 002288.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country. BBC WM 95.6.
And it's just gone 9:30. Here's Jay.
Good morning. The Labour leader Ed Miliband will use a speech to his party's conference in Manchester later to announce plans to tax homes worth more than £2 million to raise more money for the NHS. He'll also set out his 10-year plan for being Prime Minister. A West Midlands fencing company says it's been asked to improve security around Calais to stop illegal immigrants stowing away in cars and lorries. It comes as a suspected illegal immigrant from Sudan was found at a Birmingham school after apparently clinging to the bottom of a coach carrying pupils back from France. Airstrikes are being carried out against Islamic State positions in Syria by US forces, along with what the Pentagon's called partner nations. Several Arab states are among the countries taking part. And the Teenage Cancer Trust says it's concerned the disease isn't being spotted early enough in young people in the West Midlands because they're too embarrassed to talk to their GP. A BBC survey shows many teenagers don't feel able to discuss their health worries with their doctor. The weather today, dry and bright, but cloud will increase this afternoon. Highs of 18 Celsius at 64 Fahrenheit.
The voice.
The voice.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country. BBC WM 95.6.
Good morning, Jay. Thank you. Let's just talk about the big Labour Party conference up in the northwest, up in Manchester. Asking you this morning, Ed Miliband, is he ready to be your next Prime Minister? If so, just explain why. If not, I'd be really keen to explore why not. And a number of people have come on the radio this morning and just said, well, look, he doesn't look like a leader. I'm asking you, does it really matter how one looks when one's policies are more important than one's physical appearance? What do you think about this? 03453 009956. Why are we putting so much prominence on how the guy looks? He's highly intelligent. He has very strident and strong views on politics. And so long as you align yourself with those views on politics, does it really matter if he doesn't have that look that other world leaders have or indeed had? Does it really matter? Surely it's his policies that are more important than how, in your eyes, he looks. 03453 009956. Is he ready to be the next Prime Minister? Let me just tell you, we've got a full switchboard. Let me just tell you, before we go to those calls, let me just go through the 6 bullet points that he is going to major on this morning. Here we go. He's going to set out 6 national goals, not just for 1 year or 1 term of office. Don't forget, Ed has a 10-year plan, but a plan for the next 10 years, Britain in 2025. 10 years away, 11 years away. Among the 6 goals are plans to boost the take-up of apprenticeships until they match the numbers going to university. See, these are policies. The Labour leader will also pledge to halve the number of low-paid workers and to create 1 million new green technology jobs. Another policy. In another measure aimed at younger voters, he will vow to double the number of people getting on the property ladder by pledging to build 200,000 new homes by the year 2020. You see, there's lots of people listening to this who would love to buy a new house, but there aren't any homes out there. They're being priced out of the market. It's all to do with supply and demand. There aren't enough houses, so people are asking extortionate prices. People are having to try and apply for mortgages where the loan to their annual income is about 10 or 12 times their annual income. They've got no chance. He's also going to pledge to transform the way the NHS works with improved GP access and better preventative care. He's going to tax the tobacco companies a few quid as well. He says the tobacco companies are responsible for such a drain on the NHS, so he's going to tax them a few bob more. 03453 009956. He's also going to pledge to transform the way the NHS works. Something that is all very close to our hearts. Maybe now, maybe not now for a lot of people, but maybe in the future. 03453 009956. Right, let's go to Aidan, Bob, let's go to Aidan and Sutton, line 1. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Thanks for listening. Thanks for getting in touch. Is he ready to be the next Prime Minister?
I seriously doubt it because he's got the charisma of a brick.
Why is that important, though, Aidan? Let's go through these policies. He wants to get young people on the property ladder. He wants to create 1 million new green technology jobs. He wants to get the NHS in a better place. What's wrong with, the personality of a brick, your words?
He wants to destroy business.
How does he want to destroy business?
Bringing in £8 minimum wage.
Why would that be destroying business? Surely that's looking after people who are poor.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people, a lot of small businesses can't afford minimum wage. Therefore, all the costs go up, so more people are becoming unemployed.
And again, just to revisit your first statement, the personality of a brick, that's rather unkind, isn't it?
You've got to have to be a good leader, you've got to have a personality. Margaret Thatcher, Winston Churchill, JFK, fantastic personalities. They didn't need to particularly be good at politics. They were good as leaders because they could drive people. You can even take it as far as some of the dictators, not the great dictators, but the big like Hitler, fantastic public speaker. He could drive his people. What he did was wrong, but his personality could drive the whole country forward.
All right, Aidan, thanks for your call. 03453 009956. Text the studio 81333. Start your message with WM. What are the qualities of a great leader? Let's explore that. And again, that last caller's comments about the personality of a brick. That's obviously important to Aidan. So what are the personality qualities or the qualities in general of great leaders and why? 03453 009956. 03453 009956. Who's this? Danny Kelly for PM. I'm not standing this year, whoever you are. Anonymous texter. Rob's in Cannock. Hiya, Rob.
Hiya, Danny. You alright?
Yeah, good. Good morning. Is he ready to be the next Prime Minister?
Unfortunately, no.
Explain why, mate.
Right. I agree with a lot of what people have said this morning with regard to the fact that he hasn't really got much charisma. But for me, it's not just about that. It's about trust. I honestly don't trust him. If his brother David had got in, I think that might have been a bit of a different issue. But as for Ed himself, I don't trust him. He was brought in on the back of a union vote. Also, if you look at, especially what's happened, obviously, in the last couple of weeks with the Scottish referendum, you've got David Cameron and Nick Clegg both saying that, yes, Scotland can have more powers and stuff like that, but what they need to do is they need to obviously make it so stuff like it's English votes for English-only policies, and yet Ed's backtracking on it, saying that no, we need to have a longer consultation and stuff. When somebody does something like that, it's like, well, how can I place my trust in you and have you as the next Prime Minister to guide this country forward?
Isn't that prudence, though? The fact that a guy is willing to just take a step back and say, do you know what, I haven't made my mind up just yet, and I'm just going to see how it pans out. Isn't that wise and prudent?
Well, you could say that, but if you look at it on the flip side, obviously going back to this vote again, if you look on the flip side, he's turned around and says he doesn't want it. The reason for what it looks like to me, like I say, this is my personal view, is that he's putting his own party ahead of the country. The reason being is because obviously if he says, yes, I'll agree to English votes for English MPs for English only policies, the number of MPs that he would have to be able to either put through legislation if he got through, or if he was on the opposition as he is at the moment, he wouldn't be able to block it because he'd lose 41 members from Scotland, but he'd also lose 26 MPs from Wales. So his voting bloc would go down.
So it's his policies and also it's his indecision when it comes to actually enforcing the policies. Let me just ask you finally, Rob, about the qualities that make great leaders and great leadership.
Right. As you mentioned this morning, there's you know what I mean. If you look at the leaders you spoke of this morning, as you said, like Winston Churchill and Nelson Mandela and JFK.
Charismatic people.
Yeah, they all brought something different. They all had something different. Ed himself, like I say, I've got nothing against the man personally. Obviously, I don't know him, but from what you see on the TV, what you read about in the paper, and the way he sort of portrays himself, he just hasn't got what he hasn't got what he needs. As I said, if it had been David that had got in instead, as a lot of Labour supporters have said this morning, he did have, I hate to use the word, but it's like the X Factor sort of thing. He did have something about him where people warmed to him, and he was, do you know sort of what I'm getting at? He had it, whereas his brother, he doesn't.
All right, Rob, thank you for your thoughts. Really appreciate it. 03453 009956. Pick up the phone, please, and tell me about the leadership of the Labour Party, and also, is Ed Miliband ready to be the next Prime Minister? Again, that word charisma. That word charisma, although Rob's saying it's the indecision and the uncertainty of his policies, particularly the indecision. Miliband supporters, please, where are you? Let's be having you, as Delia Smith once said at half-time, caught on Sky Sports. Where are you? Let's be having you. Do you remember that? Rather embarrassing. Where are you? Karen's in Edgbaston. Good morning, Karen.
Morning, Danny. You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Is he ready to be the next PM?
No, not at all. But having listened to what you were saying, I think some of the things that he's bringing up in the conference sound really promising. They sound really good.
Yeah.
But in an age of media, where media is everything, image is everything. Image is everything. And I think the Labour Party would do well to spend some money and change his image, because you know what, people might listen to him then.
But then, Karen, just imagine the stick. All of a sudden, he'd come in for this. If he started wearing these fancy Savile Row suits, maybe he grew himself a little goatee beard, got some of those spectacles with big arms, the sort of spectacles that accountants and estate agents wear. He has a new haircut. All of a sudden, it's a new Ed Miliband. He's going to come in for so much stick, isn't he? Head's head at the end.
I think he's coming in for so much stick as it is. I mean, I was one of those that did prefer his brother, because he came across as a stronger and a more personable person. So in terms of image, it's not just about how you dress. They need to, I don't know what they need to do. They need to spend money developing a character for him, because at the moment he doesn't have one.
So it's just a lack of soul, almost, and character.
It is, because I was very much a Labour supporter until Ed Miliband came in. And the image that he presents, he shows no strength. That's what it is. He doesn't show strength. He doesn't show strength in personality. He doesn't show strength in Cameron. If I'm to put him and David Cameron side by side, I'm not a David Cameron supporter. I don't like the guy at all. But if I'm to put them side by side and present them on a world stage, without doubt, David Cameron comes ahead, far, far ahead.
But is it that important to have that presence on a world stage when it's policies that are driving the world stage presence?
Yeah, but if nobody's going to listen to you because personality is not there, then yes, image is important.
And you think that people wouldn't listen to him because of a lack of personality?
Because of a lack of personality, inferior image that he presents. I mean, seriously, anytime I look at him, he looks like a schoolboy. And I don't feel like I can listen to a schoolboy and say that's my leader.
Karen, thank you so much. That's such an interesting call, Karen. Please ring in again. What a fascinating call. Looks like a public schoolboy. 16 minutes to 10. Is there anything wrong with having youthful looks? How old's Ed? He's a year older than me. I'd love to look like a public schoolboy. Maybe not a public schoolboy. I'd love to have youthful looks. 9:45, 03453 009956. But then I don't have to fly across the world trying to convince other presidents and leaders to align themselves with our policies on worldwide issues. My God. You can email the studio, danny.kelly@bbc.co.uk. Listen, personality is important, isn't it? Personality is so important. But in politics, when policies are more important, how about Karen if he could put a few more quid in your purse? Does it really matter about his quote-unquote lack of personality if he can put a few more quid in your very own purse? Here's the number.
Call Danny Kelly
03453
009956. BBC WM 95.6.
Now then, let's talk image as well. He's been called a house brick. He's been called a public school boy. The charisma and charm of public school boys and house bricks, rather unkind. And I'm trying to defend Ed Miliband because I put an appeal out earlier for someone to defend the party leader, and all we've had so far are Labour supporters, and they've volunteered that information, who are critics of Ed Miliband, and we've had Tory supporters who are critics of Ed Miliband. But it's curious to learn that Labour supporters or former Labour supporters have been turned off because of Ed Miliband. Personality is one thing, surely policies are more important. Vinay Palmer is a performance coach and motivational speaker. He helps people get to the next level and take them from good to great. Maybe he could work with me. Vinay, good morning.
Good morning, Danny. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'd like to get to great, though, so maybe we could meet up one day. Ed Miliband, he's coming for a bit of stick this morning, Vinay.
He certainly has. I've been listening to some of the comments made and some of the descriptions given about his personality, and it's interesting, isn't it, how we make a judgment. So I guess the key thing is that we all have personality. You know, it's not that he doesn't have personality, and we live in a society now where we are so flooded with social media and all those kind of things. It's very easy to make snap judgments about people, and I'm not saying that Ed is the finished article by any stretch of the imagination. And I think one of the things we need to bear in mind is this particular position that he's in right now, the context is important. So you often hear people say Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, talk about Nelson Mandela, talk about those great leaders, but the context in which they operated was very different to where Ed is right now. Ed is unfortunate in some way because we are coming out of a time of great austerity. We're coming out of a position where things have been tough. So people are looking for a leader to step forward and deliver a certain type of leadership. And leadership is context dependent. You know, we're in a position right now where people are looking for strength, somebody with conviction, somebody they can look towards that can give them confidence in where the country is going. And unfortunately for Ed, because of where he started and a number of things along the way, he's developed this kind of baggage, this thing that people remember about him being a certain way, and is not at the moment, I don't believe, conveying that kind of strength to people that are looking for that sense of strong leadership.
Do you think the Labour Party are aware of this perception?
I'm sure they are aware of the perception. You know, they've probably got people looking at the recent YouGov results and looking at how people have said, 60% of people that were polled said that he wasn't up to the job, 59% of people said that he was weak, only 13% of people said that he was strong. And so I'm sure they're aware. What they can do about it, well, it's like your previous caller said, and the conversation about changing his image. Suddenly if you give him a haircut and a new suit, that's not really going to make the big difference that people are looking for. I think Ed is partly caught also between trying to fit into something different to who he is. I think the difference between him and his brother was David was almost came across as being much more comfortable in his own skin, was much more forthright and was actually his own man, whereas Ed seems to be like a piece of clay that Labour Party are trying to mould and make him a certain way, and I don't know whether he's entirely comfortable with who he's trying to be.
Do you think it's impossible to sway these people who are cautious of voting for him because of his image?
Well, if you know anything about me, I'd tell you that nothing's impossible. I would say it's very difficult. Because if people keep saying the same thing again and again and again and again, the more and more people believe it, and then it becomes like a snowball where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it gets to the point where there is a point of no return, possibly for Ed in this time round. I wouldn't say anything's impossible, but I would say that it's highly improbable that he can turn it around so quickly.
Of course, and I think it was Karen earlier on who said we live in a world of media. Yes. Everything is media driven, and all of a sudden, if he does grow a goatee or get some of those spectacles that estate agents wear, well, he's just going to be battered by the press, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I think whatever he does, it's got to come across as it's natural and it's really him. I think you were talking about the quality of a great leader, and I listened to you talking about charisma, and I think charisma is important to a degree, but I think the more important piece in that is character. We're looking for leaders that have a sense of character, because we've all seen people with great charisma that say wonderful things, but actually afterwards, it's all sort of smoke and mirrors. So character is important, and I think there are kind of three key things I think that are important for leaders that distill confidence in people. I think the first part is around engagement. I think if you look at the leaders that we've spoken about, the three I've mentioned before, the Barack Obamas of this world and the Tony Blairs, the one thing they had was they were able to articulate themselves very well. They were able to describe a vision, they were able to paint pictures, they were able to connect with people on a more emotive level. So it wasn't just words coming out of their mouth, it wasn't just words on a page they were reading out. They were able to really deliver their ideas and what they were talking about with great level of emotion. A lot of criticism about Ed has been that he's got great ideas, or he'll be great at articulating the problem, but when it comes to the solution, he's not able to put across his points in a way that drive believability, and that kind of leads on to the second part, which is how he carries himself, his physiology, his body. It's not necessarily the suits he wears, the tie he wears, or the glasses, but the way he carries himself is important. We often make judgments on people just the way that they walk, the way that they talk. Does his body language match his words? Does he have this? Is he conveying believability in the way that his movements link with the words that he's saying? If you look at somebody like Barack Obama, they've been highly trained when they speak. Every action, everything is driven, and it's deliberate to drive home a point, or it's deliberate to make a particular to gestures are deliberate to convey a certain message. And I just don't think that Ed at the moment has that. He has got better. If you look at his early speeches that he gave when he first got elected as leader, he's got much better than he was. So there is a positive there. So what that shows you that some change is happening and some of it can be done. Whether it's enough for him to win that.
Although we mustn't forget George W. Bush, who was the polar opposite of Obama. He was a lousy orator and inarticulate, and he stumbled and mumbled his way through speeches, didn't he?
That's correct. But he was surrounded by others that were better. So, he had Colin Powell, he had Dick Cheney that were better at speaking, and Condoleezza Rice, I think her name is, that also was a better orator than he was. So, the interesting thing about W. Bush was that when they when they did the analysis of the election, and it was seen that Al Gore was on a road train to victory, and Al Gore was much more charismatic and able to do that. Instead of battling him on charisma, and on that side, some of the studies I've been reading, they showed that actually they just went back to George W. Bush stood for the good old American guy, and they played on that part of his personality that connected with people at a different level, and that's what kind of pushed his ratings back up and got him back in the game. Which kind of brings me, I guess, to the last part, Danny, which is I think one of the things that Ed needs to do is there's this thing about being humble and some vulnerability. So we've not really seen who the real Ed Miliband is, and I'm not talking about weakness here. Don't confuse that with being weak. But I think there's an element about allowing us in to who Ed Miliband really is, and his ability to get that across in a way that connects with people.
Vinay, from good to great. We'll talk again.
Yes, thanks, Danny.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
What's all these Albion fans moaning about, frankly?
You're rubbing it in, are you?
I think Al Irvine's doing a great job.